Okay, we are ready when you are.
Okay. I'll call to order this work session of the Seward City Council Monday, November 13th. It's 5:30 p.m. and this is involving the electric utility. Mr. Clerk, would you call the roll? Read the roll.
Roll call for the work session. Calhoun?
Here.
Barnwell?
Here.
Wells?
Here.
Kreitz?
Here.
Finch?
Here.
Osenga?
Here.
And Mayor McClure.
Here.
Okay, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Administration, get us going on this thing.
Yeah, so I actually have a brief presentation to show today to get the conversation flowing. If Chris is able to pull that up.
Oh, and is Sam, are you on the line?
I don't believe Sam's
He's
on
not
the
on
line until the meeting tonight.
Oh, okay, I misheard.
But this is definitely just all conversation, and we should be good to go. But we are going to discuss the next steps with the Seward Electric Department tonight, and the agenda, where we are, where we need to be, and how to get there. So where we are, the mission of the Seward Electric Utility is to make life better in the communities we serve through safe and reliable delivery of competitively priced electricity. We have about 3,000 customers selling over 54 million kilowatt hours a year to a wide variety of customers, including 3 industrial. As we are all aware, in October 2023, a ballot measure to sell the utility to Homer Electric failed. And then the referendum petition was submitted, effectively barring any utility sale from the ballot for 2 years. So moving forward, the utility is ours to own, and we are going to figure out what to do with it. Our current organizational chart is below, and 2 of these positions, including the general manager and the power ops supervisor, the 2 main positions in there, have been vacant for several months. And then below the power ops supervisor, we have plant ops, linemen, and a field engineer. All 7 of those bottom ones are union positions, IBEW union. So staffing and wages have been an ongoing issue with the electric department and the finance department. To clarify, all of the utility billing is done through finance. And wages for non-union positions are not competitive with the state. So our electric general manager is currently we're managing through a services contract with Rob Montgomery that expires on December 31st of this year. The job has been posted online since July 18th with a grade 12A salary, which comes to about $80,000 a year starting. The operations supervisor has been vacant and posted since July 18th as well, with a salary of $74,000. They've been shared on the Facebook, our webpage, State of Alaska job site, and governmentjobs.com, and we have not received a single application for either of these positions. For reference, Copper Valley Electric Authority serves just about 4,000 meters, and their general manager makes a base salary of $222,000 a year, and their plant operator makes a base of $150,000 as of 2021. And you can find all of Copper Valley's main executive salaries on ProPublica.com. And next to both of those base salaries, they also show bonus structures, and each of these positions make about $80,000 in bonuses each year. So we are competing with organizations that can offer way out of our ball field of any salary structure range that our city of Seward allows. Finance and utility billing. The finance department manages the utility billing, and a second utility desk position was vacant for the better part of 3 years before being unfunded to support the Utilisys contract to outsource the billing. And while this outsource onboarding has been going really well, the workload in finance is still very high in regards to electric billing. And so this is a proposed organizational chart that was proposed by administration, and it's a rough draft of what a chart could look like with all recommended positions added, because our utility is also thinly staffed. to be honest. We have a really strong operations side with our linemen and our plan ops, but on the business administration side, it's just our general manager and our executive assistant. And there's a lot of things coming down the pipeline, including cyber security, that could be entire positions on their own. We have talked to our own IT department, and it's while it's not necessarily out of their capabilities, it's out of their purview to cover cybersecurity. These positions could be outsourced, but that's also comes with a high cost as well. You'll also notice that we recommended the addition of one additional lineman under System Operations Manager, and this past weekend is a prime example of why that lineman would be very useful, as we only had 2 to 3 on hand during a large storm incident. That being said, this is just a rough draft and something that we've been working with for a while. None of these are set in stone at all. And so our needs include administrative. The city will need to fill the role that Rob Montgomery is currently filling at the end of the year, and that includes communications, HR activities, power supply negotiations, budget development, and a lot more. It also includes having a strong voice in the rail belt issues. We are a small but mighty utility in those meetings, and having a strong voice in those meetings is very important for our community. We also have a lot of needs operationally. We're currently in good shape with our linemen and plant operators and field engineer, but the operation manager's position is responsible for hookups and disconnects, upgrades, maintenance, right-of-way clearing, inventory management, permit oversights, locates, training, safety, etc. A lot of things that need to happen to make our utility continue running well. And then cybersecurity is a big topic that we've brought up a lot, and through Senate Bill 123, Alaska Electric Utilities will be mandated to meet future reliability and cybersecurity standards developed through a newly formed ERO, or Electric Reliability Organization. And that began in 2019, but it's really going to ramp up in the coming year. And at the end of 2024, the ERO will become fully functional, meaning that we'll have to meet those standards and we'll have to pay into those funds. So that, while it seems like this daunting task that's out there in the future, it's actually just around the corner. And so how do we get there? I recommend a consulting contract with Matanuska Electric Association. About MEA, Matanuska Electric Association is Alaska's oldest existing and second largest electrical cooperative, and it's owned and operated by its 55,000 members. Its service area covers 47 miles of power lines in south central Alaska, and its mission is to provide safe, reliable energy at reasonable rates with exceptional member service and commitment to the community they serve. What does that entail? I recommend a 1-year contract with the option to extend for up to 3 years to cover the management of Seward Electric, which would give us time to restructure and recruit positions, aka retooling our utility. And the budget for these new positions that we have currently slated would help finance the MEA contract. Why MEA? It's a nonprofit co-op, so any of the work that they do would be at cost. They won't upcharge, they won't charge for their time, they'll only charge for their time, not for a profit. They also did not express interest in purchasing our utility, meaning they don't have a stake in the game. They didn't present anything to council, they are an outside entity. They're familiar with Alaska and the rail belt operations, and they've done this for other utilities in the past. It's one of the core tenets of cooperatives, helping other utilities and cooperatives. And so with that, what is your guidance? Do you have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts?
Wow.
Oh, also, to clarify, we have had a small, brief discussion with Matanuska Electric, but there hasn't been anything moving forward from that. They have expressed interest, but we haven't confirmed anything with them, and it's kind of coming to you for whether or not to move forward with the next step.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Finch.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. What happens if we don't meet the ERO compliance?
That is something we haven't explored because we would need to meet the ERO compliance. We would have to spend the money to make it happen. There is a possibility that we would be cut off from the main electrical grid if we did not meet. Yeah. So yes, that is the ultimate end game possibility, is that we would be cut off from the electrical grid, but the reality is that we would not let that happen. We would spend whatever is necessary to make sure that does not happen.
That would also mean we would be running on our generators.
Yes.
We would not have any outside source by the federal standards supplying us electricity.
Yes, exactly. We would be cut off from the electrical grid running on our generators.
2 more questions. With Rob Montgomery's contract coming up December 31st, I would personally like to see that contract be approached to be renegotiated by the administration. Because we're going to need his insight on all this stuff.
I would say that Rob Montgomery is currently considering his own future, so while administration may request that, it may not be guaranteed to be something moved forward by Rob as well.
And last question, out of the 3,000 houses that are on the electrical system, can we find out how many are bed and breakfasts, short-term, and hotels?
We could find that out, but it would take some work, but yes, we could find that answer.
It's Councilmember Finch's question. Couldn't we find that out just by counting how many hotels and bed and breakfasts we have?
Yeah.
Because everybody's getting power from Seward. There's no hotels that are on their own generators, their own power manufacturing.
We would also have to expand outside of city limits and include the ones from Moose Pass all the way in, so looking at business licenses as well, which is the number we haven't exactly found in the past since it's outside of our purview.
So can we not look at the public documents through the Kenai Peninsula Borough?
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
All right, so we can find that information?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, other questions, comments from council? This is, yes, Councilmember Calhoun.
One of the questions that I think, if I remember, because I'm getting older, that I asked at our last work session was to find out if we could get a general idea of what the cost might be. I know you haven't had any extensive discussions like with MEA, but if we chose to go into a management contract or chose to extend, if you wanted to, Rob Montgomery's contract, or if neither one of those two things happened, we're obviously going to have to bump up what we're offering to pay that position. So do we have any roundabout ideas?
We don't have any roundabout ideas. Well, we have a roundabout idea, but in general, the thought is that the positions that we were creating in the organizational chart and the wage increases in those positions would cover the MEA contract as it starts. That being said, we haven't hashed out the strong details of it, so we don't have numbers to include. It would be more than Rob Montgomery's current contract, just because it would also be covering that plant ops supervisor position as well. So it wouldn't just be Rob's role, it would be the plant ops supervisor role and then probably a half-time role in addition.
Other, yes, Councilmember Wells.
Thank you. So first, to administration, I really appreciate you guys putting in as much work as you did while the rest of us were gallivanting around. But wait a second, so were you. Can you clear, I know that you went through the presentation, but a little bit more detail on what outsourcing this would look like? How many positions exactly would we be filling, and how much salary would we be putting towards the overall expense?
So I would love to give you the firm details of that, but it's also before that step in the negotiations and the discussions with MEA. And while we anticipated having a deeper conversation with them on Friday, a large storm took out a lot of the electrical utility across the state. I will state that the positions that we are looking to fill would be the manager position, the plant ops supervisor position, and then additional as necessary. And so working through that, there is a, if you look, or on one of the slides, I talked about administrative and operational tasks.
Yep.
And
See the slides.
yes, sorry, I'm bringing it back up. Thank you, Becky. So the administrative tasks include drafting resolution, customer relations, complaint resolution, communications, HR activities, power supply negotiations, budget development, and more. You always put an and more. And then the operations manager position would include customer hookups, disconnects, power restoration, system upgrades, right-of-way clearing, inventory management, permit oversight, locates, training, and safety. And so those are a general gist of the beginning stages of what we would like this MEA contract to look like. That being said, they may come back if they decide to move forward with some requirements on their end of what they would have to offer to feel comfortable doing that, and we may over time find needs on our end that we would have to add on that. I will say that it seems at its basic level, the Matanuska MEA is open to and willing to help at any level that we need to ensure that they are helping their fellow utilities. So the cost could be as high as we want or as low as we want in the grand scheme of things. But I would like to reiterate that it will be at cost. They are a nonprofit, so they will not upcharge on any of the time that they spent.
Okay, let me get Councilmember Barnwell first.
If you have a problem.
No, that's okay, we'll get that.
So we're going to be discussing the rate study later this evening. Does that rate study reflect any of this?
So the rate study reflects the addition of new positions and wage structures, which we would utilize in turn to fund this while those positions are hashed out and the wage structures are examined. We can't tomorrow go out and hire a general manager for utility for $220,000 on the pay scale that we offer as a city, but we can work towards a competitive salary, and we can work towards hiring those other positions, and in the meantime we would use the funds that are allocated for those positions to fund this. So no, technically, but it does reflect the possibility, it allows for a possibility.
Councilmember Wells.
You got it.
Oh, okay. Other questions? This one? Yeah.
So, yeah, we're just talking about wages and funding these positions. Obviously, none of this is in our current budget.
No, none of it is in our current budget, no.
Okay. So the only, we'll have to do budget amendments. As soon as we kick wages up for these two positions, then we're going to be looking at kicking wages up for numbers of other positions across the city, I would imagine, because that's always how it works.
Yes, I would imagine that would be the case.
So just, we all need to be aware that that would be the case. I don't know about, what was it, Copper Valley?
Copper Valley Electric
Valley, yeah.
Authority.
How their funding goes and how they can, they pay somebody that much money. Obviously, we can do that if we choose to and adjust our budget to do that. But it looks obviously we're going to have to increase what we're able to offer to get somebody into these positions.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that. So that's something we're going to have to consider. And I believe a little different thing, the cybersecurity thing, I think we have May of 26, I think is the cutoff that we have to meet those standards.
Yes.
And are you guys, I'm assuming, working on figuring out how much that's going to cost us?
So we have been working on the basics of that. As you can probably tell, it is a difficult and not confusing, but it's a difficult thing to tackle for a small utility, but we will have costs on that, and if that position is eventually outsourced, we have begun looking into options for that. It would also be something that the MEA consulting contract could help us navigate as well, since they are a stronger, larger utility with a stronger cybersecurity system. We could utilize the resources to help figure out what we'll be doing in that scenario or with that situation.
I know there's a lot of elderly in town that are locals that are on Social Security and very set wages, and I know $36 is a very large amount for some of them. I've come up with some ideas to possibly help that offset.
So just to clarify, the work session is specifically to talk about this option, and anything about rate studies would have to, and the rate adjustments would have to be discussed at the meeting at.
All right. And this is, I'm leading into that.
Okay, just to clarify.
Because out of the 3,000 houses that are on the system, The reason I asked about how many B&Bs are short-term hotels, all that, if their B&B or short-term's only running in the summer, the summer rate apply to them. If they run year-round, that summer rate applies to them yearly, which would offset this rate increase for a lot of the elderlies. And I understand the B&B tax in Anchorage is 12% and ours is only 4%. If we increased it to an additional 6% on top of that 4%, that 6% could go in to help offset this rate increase.
Yeah. So I think that's a thought to consider following deciding the future with the manager situation. That wouldn't be anything I would want to move forward until some sort of management situation is set up with the utility, and then move forward with rate structure accommodations after that. But it is a good thought.
Councilmember
Thank you,
Calhoun.
Mayor. So what I'm getting is, we haven't talked to Mr. Montgomery yet about an extension. So we don't know whether or not he would be willing to do that.
Mr. Montgomery is currently unsure of whether or not he would be willing to do that. So
The only other option, based on the conversation we're having right now, is to explore the management contract with
Yes.
MEA, is what you guys are suggesting to us.
that is what we were suggesting. There are also out-of-state consultants who are open to being available for consulting on our utility. With that being said, they are for-profit, out-of-state, and unfamiliar with the rail belt. So while we could explore other options for different consulting firms, we as an administration recommend moving forward with this option.
Councilmember Wells.
So I just want to say that I'm in full support of moving forward and exploring the options with MEA.
Well, I think at the end of the work session, you're going to be looking for some guidance from us and a recommendation. Right? I'd like to get public input if we could. And based on a previous situation, I'd like you to keep your comments to, the 3 or 4 minutes each. Sometimes people get going, and we don't want one person to take over the whole comment period, okay? But if it's okay, I'll open it to public comment. Okay. Anybody wanting to comment, question? I'd suggest coming up, just because that way we can acknowledge you.
Well, I'll kick it off.
Okay, sure. And then if that happens,
Yeah. I think
just
everybody would like somebody to take it.
for the YouTube people and for the
Fools
record.
rush in.
We need your name and
I got it,
all
I got
that.
it. If I remember, it's
I
Bruce
know.
Jaffa, outside city limits. I frankly don't think you should waste any time worrying about whether Mr. Montgomery stays or goes. He's just another player. If you lost him, you could find somebody on an emergency basis. I particularly don't like the way he manipulated you and the city to create the position that he's in now. I know Matanuska Electric. I do business with them as well as every other utility along the rail belt. It is interesting that the manager calls them a not-for-profit co-op. None of the co-ops are for profit. They finance differently, but none of them are for profit. Golden Valley is not for profit, but Aurora, which is owned by Usabelli, is for profit. They still operate in the same way. There are other utilities here in the state that probably don't offer as good a management team as MEA. MEA benefited greatly because when they went in the generating business, their chief operating officer came from Chugach. He had been the board of directors, the chairman of the board of directors at Chugach, went to MEA, brought in a management system that has carried along. But MEA is in a very political arena in the valley. So they're not perfect, but I do recognize that the manager's got a good recommendation. And bringing them in on an interim basis would make a lot of sense. But the fact is that this city can manage this utility. There were members of the council that chose to ignore the opportunities, and they're currently ignoring the opportunities of available resources here in the city of Seward. I would simply say that the harbor functions very well, extremely well. Part of that is Norm Regis as a person, but it also has a advisory board that I happen to be on. A system like that for the utility would not, for the electric utility, would not be extraordinary. A permanent advisory board with no actual power, but that could research things and bring them to you, because none of you are experts. I'm not an expert, but I probably know a lot about this topic. So a particular board that you appointed or selected could offer a great deal towards the administration of this and avoid some of those staff positions. So I hope that makes sense. Let Rob Montgomery go.
Anyone else? Becky, come on.
Becky Dunn, inside the city limits. It is a very tough market right now to hire people, so I think we need to be as assertive as possible in our job quest. And I noticed a pickup on Facebook since Kat took over. Thank you. The electric right now is, we have one operator, one journeyman lineman that has put in his notice he's leaving town. And we have one operator that is in the hospital. We don't know when he will be back to work. And so I have some suggestions, and these aren't criticizing anybody. I'm not even sure who advertises the jobs. Is it the department head, the city manager, the city council, the HR? I'm not sure. I think it's a combination. But these are just my suggestions from asking how people found out about jobs or how we've advertised them in the past. The first, following ordinance number 2023-12, amending City Code Title 3.20.020, job announcement, sponsored by Janet Bauer, which changed the requirements for HR, the requirements they have for advertising city jobs. The only requirement right now is on the City of Seward website. That's the only place that me or several people could find these two positions that we're hiring for the electric right now. The only two places. So all ads were pulled out of the local newspaper at that time. They have not placed any ads since June 14th. And I'm not saying they're not anyplace else, I'm just saying there are other ones to place them. We have historically always advertised on akml.org. We are a member of this site, and we pay a fee to be a member of this site. It is the Alaska Municipal League members may advertise for free. So this costs us nothing. We pulled our ads about a year ago, I think. I don't know when, but they haven't been there for a while. And every city in the state, you can drop down and you can find linemen advertised, cops advertised, except for every city but Seward has jobs advertised there. And I would like to see Rob's, if we doubled the two, not doubled, if we increased the two jobs that we have advertised for the utility by 20%, they still would not come close combined to what we're paying Rob. So I would suggest advertising these jobs first. Another place is Seward Jobs. There is 2,600 members on Facebook, and there's no jobs from the city of Seward, but there is from Seward Community Health Center and Independent Living Center. I can go on. There's a whole list of places. And
So that was 3 minutes.
okay, I have two more really good ones. NWPPA, that is Northwest Pacific Plower Association. We pay $3,697. No, we pay $3,699.74 to belong to that a year. It is nationwide for utilities. All jobs are advertised there. We've we've advertised, I'm having trouble with that word, but we've advertised there in the past. We have no advertisements on there. They've been pulled for a while, and it is $135 to advertise on that. So this site isn't free, but it is a huge one. And also, the number one job site for webs is Indeed, I-N-D-E-E-D. When I asked Wendell Lineman, where did you get hired from? He said, I heard about the sewer jobs when I went to Indeed. That is nationwide. You punch in what you're looking for, and jobs from all over the country appear. So I would like to see, I don't know what that one costs, but it just seems like these jobs are not being advertised. Also, on the city website, you have to click around to find jobs, maybe a link right on the front page. I noticed other cities do that. So, and on the city websites now, the utility site and City of Seward, they have that, and I don't know how they did it, but they even pinned more than one job site. And the police are advertising on there too now, and yep. So I would like to see us, before we contract any more jobs, try to advertise through that. Hit up AdTech too. AdTech has, they have office occupations 1, 2, and 3. Might be somebody that can work at the utility counter.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Who else?
Oh, I also asked to do advertisement for free, but haven't gotten any calls on it.
Does anyone else have comments from the public? I'll bring it back if you don't. Last chance. Okay. It's only 6 o'clock, so, you know.
I just wanted to say that, like Becky, I also looked for the jobs to be advertised. I looked at ZipRecruiter, Indeed. I also looked at the Alaska Power Association, which we're a member of, and lots of, Chugach electric jobs and things are there, and ours is not. But it doesn't really matter where we advertise if we're only going to advertise for $83,000 probably. But I heard you say I'm not supposed to talk about the rate study, but the management contract with Matt Niska, if we do that, can they look at the rate study and the inputs that went into the rate study and give us their opinion? I think that would be a really valuable thing to do, because a rate study is a product of Rob Montgomery's numbers that went into it. A lot of them aren't clear to me. I don't know, maybe all of you have got it all dialed in, but there's a lot of specifics that aren't there. It would be really good to have another set of eyes. What could that hurt?
Thank you, Lauren. Good suggestions, all of them. Anyone else? Think about it.
Just make an observation, if that's all right.
Okay, sure.
Try to be kind and gentle and all those things that I really want to be.
We should probably have you say who you are, just so
Yeah.
the listening public knows.
Daryl Schaefer-Meyer, Inside
We all
the
see
City.
you.
I appreciate your task before you, and I appreciate the recommendations that City Manager Sorensen has provided you tonight. And I would just say that we sort of poisoned the well when it came to trying to recruit personnel for the electric utility with some events that we created and started here in our own actions. And I won't belabor those, but when we had the utility on the sale market twice for sale on the ballot, that was not going to generate any excitement by anybody to come here for those positions, as long as that was in the mix and out there. And I recognize the salaries are not competitive, and those need to be fixed. And I think your own ad hoc committee did address that and recognize that as well, and made recommendations. So I think we haven't been the most attractive community to recruit personnel to work here, given the fact that we have gone through how many city managers in the last several years, the turnover there, the turnover of other positions, the inability to recruit and staff our finance department appropriately, all of the mix of things that are making people not want to look to Seward as a place to put down their roots and come. And I think that's one of the things that needs to be fixed here, and I think we're hopefully on the way to doing that with stability and looking at how we're going forward here. But I think it's very difficult for people to look at wanting to come here right now. And maybe that will improve as we move away from some of the other more divisive political things that we've been engaged in here, and I'll take credit for some of that problem. But anyway, that's my comments to you, and I appreciate the challenges you have, and I look forward to discussion later tonight with respect to the rates.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, anyone else in the public?
Hi, Megs Testromata, Inside the City Limits. I just am curious how much we've reached out to other options than Matanuska Electric or MEA. Because it seems like, we want to get competitive bids if we can. I remember hearing someone on the ad hoc committee maybe mention a company that operates some utilities in Alaska. It might be called TDX, I'm not sure. But I don't think we should just focus on ones that are necessarily co-ops. I mean, we should look for what gives us the best deal, and it might not be a co-op. So I just wanted to encourage that we, check out all options and not just automatically just follow, the line to MEA if you want to get management. Yeah. And like I sort of ditto what Bruce Jaffa said about, if Rob's not sure, we should let him go. And also Lori, that we really would like to have some second set of eyes look at the numbers, because we people on the ad hoc committee spent a long time looking at numbers, and we don't feel like really that maybe all our numbers were discussed. I mean, we missed the opportunity to sit down and talk about them, which I think the dialogue would have been very useful. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Bill Kaluza, Inside City Limits. Oh, just very briefly, the whole cybersecurity thing that none of us understand, probably never will. I followed it a little bit for a while, and I was watching the federal, because this is a big federal mandate. The state is really complying with probably all the federal mandates that are coming down. And there are thousands of little utilities across the country. So I assume the feds and the states are not going to be shutting down thousands of small utilities because they can't afford some super cybersecurity systems, and that the feds will be coming in and they already are providing technical assistance and support for small utilities to just try to meet the new standards that are coming. I think Seward needs to remember that we are just a big customer with a generator in the shed for backup power. We are not wheeling and dealing power through the rail belt. And I wish Kevin Dunham was here, because he talked about a nice long chat he had with the cybersecurity guy in Chugach about what he thought Seward would be facing, given that we are really just a customer on the rail belt, and we are not sending power out. And I remember Kevin saying that he didn't think we were going to have to meet anywhere near the kind of standards that Chugach and MEA and the rest of those guys that are moving electricity around the rail belt. So I think before we get too far down the path in terms of what it's going to cost, we're going to have to find out a lot more, and it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, this is going to be something that's going to go on year after year after year. It's the thief and the locksmith kind of world out there. So I guess I don't want to be worrying about a $10 million bill coming at us all of a sudden in short time, but it will be an expense, for sure. Thanks.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to bring, yeah.
Linda Paquette, Outside City Limits. I I want to thank administration for the work that they did and for, because I'm sure you didn't just go straight to MEA and make a decision. I'm sure that you looked at a lot of different options, and I just really want to appreciate the time and the research that you spent doing that and the recommendation that you came up with. I also want to speak on Rob's behalf because I really feel it's an unfortunate thing that's happened. This election, the last one, turned this whole conversation into something that became very personal and bitter. And I remember when Rob first came here, he solved a number of problems for us. He solved the solar panel problem that we had been suffering years dealing with. So I know that there are people in the room that are ready to kick him out the door, but and you may be ready to do that too, but I don't want you to do that without at least not acknowledging the amazing significant things that he has done for us. So that bothers me. The last thing I just want to mention, and it's not on this week's agenda, it'll be on your next meeting's agenda, but PACAB has submitted a list of things, suggestions that you might consider having us work on. One of those that I was specifically offering up is to look at rates and why they're so complicated, and is there something we could do, is there something PACAB could do to help straighten that specific piece out? Because we seem to hear it from everybody that our rates are too complicated, and that seems like something we could fix for the future. So those are my thoughts. Thank you so much, all of you, for what you do.
Thank you, Linda. Anyone else? Just about tapped into everybody. Okay, seeing no more? Okay, I'm going to bring back to administration to respond a bit and then back to us.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you for the different options to post the jobs. We currently, as I mentioned, post on government jobs, cityofseward.com, and throughout Facebook. But sharing to the job boards on Facebook is a great idea, and reaching out to some of those others. And then I will follow up to get the full name of the TDX. That was something I was not aware of, so if that is the name of that organization or that group, I'd be happy to look into that as well. But other than that, I'm excited to hear about some guidance and recommendations from the council moving forward.
Okay, council, anything responding to the public or further recommendations? You have your hand up. Councilmember Wells.
Sure. I'd like to recommend that administration move forward with MEA and see what type of options we have with them.
Okay. It is a work session, but to give credence to that, we should probably have a motion? Can we have a motion in a work session?
Nope.
No,
No.
not really, but we can have a nod.
Yeah, we can, and a discussion, a higher level discussion too of what you would like to see in that, what goals from a management standpoint. I know it is very vague at this point in response to Councilmember Calhoun's questions on prices and everything. That's definitely something we can solidify more if we approach them with what we would like to see in that. So are there specifics beyond what we talked about tonight that you'd like to see?
Okay, Councilmember West.
So as far as that goes, I'd like to see the most detailed service that they can offer, right? And pricing, all the way down to the most minimal service that they offer in pricing.
Okay.
And so if we can get a complete breakdown of everything that they're willing to do, and if we can pick and choose what services we feel best fit us.
And you had said to me at some time that this would involve one or two of their people actually being in Seward, right? It wouldn't be a remote.
Yeah, we would like a
Explain
person
about that.
here on the ground to come to staff meetings and to be available as well as necessary. And be a part of our management team and discuss, so not just somebody calling in remotely from Matanuska.
I would want that, I think, particularly. Councilmember Barnwell.
Yeah, I do like the 1-year provisional and then possibly extending that. The other thing is, Mike Hubbard did the rate study, which was independent study, independent objective study. So I don't know if Matanuska would look at that rate study, or if you could get a comment from Matanuska, so we just have some sort of credibility on that rate study. It sounds like there's some people that are questioning the validity of that, and I don't know how we get to any truth on that one, but
I could ask, but, yeah, I could ask.
Okay, I think that's. Any other suggestions? Councilmember Finch?
With the transition into possibly a new MEA or knowing what we need, I would still like the administration to look in and check with Ron Montgomery about possibly extending it. Because he has a lot of good knowledge, and like Ms. Paquette said, he's done a lot for this town in the short time he's here. If you're adult enough to put the personal issue aside, that man did a lot of amazing things that for the 30 years here, I know we were starving for.
That's true.
And we want to keep that ability there.
All the discussion
Yep,
in that.
continue having that
area.
discussion with Rob as, I think we have about 6 weeks left there, so. I will also add, for the pricing structure, Randy seeing both or Councilmember Wells seeing both the high end and the low end is definitely doable. But administration also anticipates the price fluctuating throughout, since as we hire more positions, we can scale back on the contract. So we'll go and get both of those ends, but also understanding that it would be something that we could scale back as we progress forward.
Oh, well,
So-
let me get.
Oh, sorry,
No,
I didn't see
no,
you
that's
there.
okay. Councilmember Wells, go ahead first.
Okay, well, just to comment, the city manager there, yes, we could scale back, but is there also the option that if they do a great job of managing the utility, then those are just that many less employees that we have to maintain and deal with. So I think that getting as much detail from them would best service us.
I agree.
Let me get Councilmember Barnwell first. and then- Were you mentioning?
kind of lost my head. I lost my thought there. Sorry. I lost it.
Okay, well, we'll get back to you. Vice Mayor.
I would just mention that we are still paying bennies in retirement on these positions. So, and I think we've had this discussion where I'm not sure it's exactly that easy for those to go away if we don't have the positions filled. And that's something that we wouldn't want to totally remove the position anyways. So we're going to be paying that money into their retirement and other bennies anyhow, still, even if if the position is not full. So I just want to mention that.
Councilmember Barnwell,
I
remembered
remembered.
what he was going to say.
Do we have a definitive number on what we want to offer a general manager or executive? How do we need to hash that out, or how does that even work?
So hashing that out is part of a larger discussion since it is a wage grade position. We have grades across the utilities, or across the city. So while we could say we want to offer a general manager of a utility $180,000, we can't do that based off of the grades that we have currently in line at our city. So all of the other grades for all of the other positions would also have to be considered. We can't treat one position in our city as unique in comparison to the rest of our valued city employees. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing. Definitely.
I'd like to see more advertisement for all city jobs.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that.
Ms. Dunn brought up a lot of good sites, and I think if we can get it out there. The more feelers you get, the more responses we should get.
Mr. Bigley?
Yeah, I did want to note too that I know like the IBEW, the workers union actually like advertises internally, so that is one way that those union positions go out. And they're really good at networking with each other and doing that. But also too, just like this is a new world we live in, and this is like this worker shortage thing. I know other utilities are like 5 and 7 linemen short as well in the state. Talking with people all over, like this is kind of like a thing that we're living in, and we do need to be very advertise wherever we can and put bring up the rates as we can and do those types of things. But it's like the reality too is that we are going to be, even with those things, we were probably still going to be running a little bit short-handed, and that's just kind of where we have to take that into consideration as we are making decisions and going forward with the city for the next, in perpetuity. Just it's a tough hurdle.
This last week really showed us a whole lot of things. It showed the importance of having someone here in charge, because Mr. Montgomery took charge, and he was giving myself and the city manager regular updates on the whole thing, which, that was good. It also showed the need for bolstering up our workforce, because we had to figure out, or they had to figure out how to juggle the few linemen we had to keep the generators open and running. And it also, one of the things I've pushed for and I'm so happy about, we have the generators. It showed the importance of the generators. Otherwise, we would have been completely without a power for 3 days almost.
Until Sunday at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
was when power was restored.
Yeah, so, we functioned well with what we've got, but it also showed what we need, so, but we can do it. Other suggestions, I think we're...
Yeah.
Are we in agreement that administration should pursue talks with MEA and with the questions that we've included? I mean, is there any dissent from that? Okay. That direction.
Thank you.
We still got time, if anybody's got any other stuff up here. It's a lot, I think our administration has done a masterful job of getting started on this, because, it's, even with going to Japan and everything else, this came about. My question is, okay, so we've given you some direction. Oh, just 1 second. Can I just finish what I was going to say before, because I'll probably forget to. We've given some direction, and then, so the next step would be for you to bring back in another work session, perhaps? Or how is this going to work? Or do we want to even think that far yet?
I think the next steps would be to have a more robust conversation with MEA and follow up on some of the things mentioned tonight as well. And from there, kind of decide whether it would be a work session or go straight into new business. But I can't answer that 100% at this time without knowing kind of what the landscape looks like ahead.
Okay. Is it okay if we get some more public? Okay.
I just had a question. Does MEA have a similar relationship that you're talking about with any other city in Alaska that's like us? Or is this something new they started?
So they've done it in the past with other utilities throughout the state. The biggest example is they've had the same relationship with Unalaska, I believe, but none currently operating. No, so it's not a long-term thing. It's a come in, help out, and then leave. So they have done it in the past.
That's a good question. Yes, good.
Is one of the overriding interests in MEA have anything to do with John Faust? He was with MEA, I think, and so if he's there, is he part of that conversation?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know if he's there or not. No. Yeah, that's.
You spoke with other people.
Yeah, I don't know if John Faust is there, or I didn't speak with him. No.
Okay. Anything else from council, administration? I think you have some direction.
Yes, thank you.
And this was good. And now the public knows kind of where we're heading, and we can start hearing back, and it's a big group. It's a group conversation. We're a community, and that's the way it should be. So if we're all complete? Okay, I'll close the work session at 6:24, and we will meet at 7 for our regular meeting, so we can